I married my high school sweetheart. We were young, inexperienced, and optimistic about a future together. At first, everything seemed perfect. We were learning how to be adults while holding on to the naive belief that love alone was enough to keep us strong. But life has a way of testing things you think are unbreakable. One afternoon, I came home early and found my wife with another man. The shock and betrayal hit like a truck. She begged for forgiveness, and we went to counseling. 4 months, we worked on rebuilding our marriage. She seemed like a new person, devoted and eager to make things right. I thought we had a chance, but deep down I couldn't shake the doubt. Then one day, I saw her Facebook messages open on our computer. I didn't mean to snoop, but the truth stared me in the face. She was still unfaithful. My heart shattered again, but this time I didn't react. I acted as though nothing happened while planning my escape. One Sunday evening, I packed a few essentials, told her I was taking the dogs to the park, and drove away for good. That drive felt like freedom and devastation rolled into one. After leaving, I drove without a destination, just trying to put as much distance between myself and the life I was escaping. My mind was racing, torn between heartbreak and relief. For the first time in years, I was truly alone, and while the loneliness stung, it also felt freeing. Somewhere along the journey, I decided to start over in a small town far from home. I checked into a modest motel and spent the first few days figuring out what to do next. I had enough savings to keep me afloat for a while, but I knew I needed work to create a stable life. As luck would have it, I saw a local business hiring in my trade. I applied and got the job. The steady routine gave me structure and purpose, helping me rebuild a sense of normalcy. Meanwhile, my ex-wife began her attempts to contact me. At first, it was a string of missed calls and voicemails. When I didn't respond, her messages grew nastier. She sent hateful texts accusing me of ruining her life, paired with photos and videos of her with other men, clearly meant to hurt me. While it stung, I resisted the urge to respond. I knew no good could come from reopening that door. In time, the emotional wounds began to heal. I focused on my work and building a new life, and eventually I met someone who would change everything. She was nothing like my ex, kind, grounded, and honest. She wasn't trying to impress me or fix me. She just wanted to share her life with me. Slowly, I learned to let my guard down, and for the first time in years, I felt safe in a relationship. We fell in love and got married, and my life became something I could finally be proud of. I didn't take any of it for granted. Every small moment with her, every kind word or gesture, felt like a reminder that I had made the right choice by walking away from my old life. Years later, I returned to my hometown for a family gathering. My mom posted a picture of me and my wife from the event, and to my surprise, my ex-wife reached out. She sent me a message asking if we could meet for coffee. She said she wanted closure and needed to apologize. At first, I was hesitant. I had spent so much time burying those memories, and I wasn't sure I wanted to revisit them. But a part of me wanted closure too, so I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe, and the conversation was surprisingly civil. She apologized multiple times, taking responsibility for the betrayal and the pain she caused. For the first time, I saw her vulnerability, and though the resentment I once held was still there, it began to fade. We talked for over an hour, sharing tears and awkward laughs. She didn't try to justify her actions or shift the blame, and that honesty meant more to me than I expected. As we prepared to leave, she asked if she could give me a hug. I hesitated, but I eventually agreed. It was strange, bittersweet but healing. We said our final goodbyes, and I walked away feeling lighter than I had in years. When I got home, I told my wife about the meeting. At first, she seemed uncomfortable. She left the room, and I assumed I'd be sleeping on the couch that night. But a few minutes later, she came back, tears in her eyes. She hugged me tightly and told me she was glad I shared my past with her. She said she had forgotten how much I'd been through and was thankful for the life we had now. The love and support in that moment reinforced everything I had come to believe. Walking away from my old life was the best decision I ever made. Although I had found peace in my new life, that meeting with my ex-wife lingered in my mind. It wasn't regret, I didn't miss her or the life we shared. Instead, it brought a sense of finality, as though the last threads of my old life had finally been tied off. It reminded me how far I had come since those dark days. My journey to this point hadn't been a straight path. Starting over in a new town had come with its own challenges. I had spent many nights battling loneliness and doubt, wondering if I'd made the right choice or if I had simply run away from my problems. The weight of the hurt she caused often felt unbearable, but little by little I grew stronger. Meeting my wife was the turning point. Her love wasn't dramatic or filled with grand gestures. It was steady, reassuring, and unconditional. She believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. She helped me understand that my worth wasn't defined by the failures of my past. Instead, it was built on the choices I made to move forward. Yet, even with all the progress I'd made, revisiting my hometown stirred up memories I hadn't fully processed. Seeing old places and faces reminded me of the person I used to be. The naive teenager who thought he had everything figured out, the broken man who drove away with his dogs and no plan. I wasn't that person anymore, but confronting those memories brought a mix of emotions. Pride for how far I'd come and sadness for the pain I endured to get here. The conversation with my ex-wife had an unexpected effect. While I had spent years resenting her, hearing her take accountability for her actions helped me let go of that anger. I didn't forgive her entirely, but I no longer carried the burden of hatred. For so long, I had defined her as the source of my pain, but in that cafe, I saw her as just another flawed person trying to move on from her mistakes. When I got home, my wife's reaction added another layer to my reflection. Her initial discomfort caught me off guard, but the moment she hugged me, I knew she understood. She had always been my rock, but this time it felt different. Her tears weren't about jealousy or insecurity, they were about gratitude and empathy. She was grateful for the life we had built and empathetic to the struggles I had faced to get here. That night, I lay awake, replaying the events of the day in my mind. I thought about how every painful moment, every choice I had made to leave behind the life I once knew, had led me to this point. My past wasn't perfect, but it had shaped me into the person I was. I had learned to set boundaries, demand respect, and prioritize my own happiness. It wasn't just my ex-wife I had let go of, it was the weight of everything that came with her. The betrayal, the guilt, the bitterness, all of it had been eating away at me for years. By facing her and confronting those emotions, I had finally freed myself from them. Looking over at my wife sleeping peacefully beside me, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had no idea how much her love had healed me. And though I didn't say it often enough, I knew I owed my happiness to the life we had built together. Leaving my old life was the hardest decision I ever made, but it was also the most important. It forced me to face the pain, let go of the past, and rebuild myself from the ground up. That meeting with my ex-wife, while unexpected, gave me something I hadn't realized I needed: closure. For years, I carried resentment toward her. But in that cafe, as she apologized and took responsibility, I saw the situation for what it was: a chapter of my life that had taught me lessons I needed to learn. It wasn't about forgetting or even fully forgiving, it was about releasing the anger and making peace with what happened. Now I have a life that feels genuine. My wife, who is my biggest source of strength, reminds me every day of the kind of love I deserve. I've built a foundation rooted in trust, respect, and kindness. It's not perfect, nothing ever is, but it's real, and that's more than I ever could have hoped for back then. Looking back, I realized that leaving wasn't running away. It was taking the first step towards something better. I don't regret the pain because it led me to where I am today. If you've ever been in a situation where leaving feels impossible, remember this: you deserve a life that brings you joy, not one that keeps you trapped in pain. Change is terrifying, but staying in a place that breaks you is far worse. Take the leap. It's worth it. Thank you for reading. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Your support helps bring these stories to life.